So my senior year, we were at the Rose Bowl, and Chuck and I were rooming together, and Mike Haight and Kelly O'Brien were rooming next to us. And those two guys were in our room, and in walks John Hayes. He was he was there for the Rose Bowl, and he came in with all this Kansas City gear, and this is his rookie season, so we're getting all the hats and all this shit. Sure. And the last thing John told me before he left school to go play in the NFL is like, hey, you're rooming with Chuck. You make sure he stays humble. Don't let this son of a bitch get cocky.
Right.
And as soon as John walks in the door, Chuck starts blowing him shit, like being just an ass, calling him every name in the book, big deal, the Chiefs, blah, 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 just being a horse's ass. Uh-huh. And so John looked at me and he was super pissed. He's like, man, I gave you one job. I'm not kidding. Ask anybody who was there. So he grabs Chuck by the back of the neck, and we're on the 34th floor of this fucking hotel. It's a balcony that's probably 2 feet. He opens up the slider, throws him out there, and shuts the slider and locks it. He goes, you're staying out there until you can show some respect. He's like, fuck you, Hayes, blah, blah, blah. And he just kept screaming at Jonathan.
Yeah.
And John comes walking over, and he goes, I can't believe you let this guy get cocky like this. I gave you one freaking job. And he was super mad. And he goes, excuse me. He gets up, and Chuck's still screaming, and he closes the shades.
Right.
So he can't even look in. Now, it's hot as hell out there. It's the sun's beating down. And he's like, let me in, goddammit, let me in. And John's like, I'm not letting you in until you bark like a dog. And he's like, fuck you, Hayes, I'm not doing that. I'm blind. This guy's, just won the runner-up to Heisman.
Right.
He's Davey O'Brien winner. I mean, he's All-American, first team. Got his name on the stadium, for Christ's sakes, Right. So finally, he's like, I'm not letting you in until you bark like a dog. And 10 minutes later, all you heard was a woof, woof. It wasn't a big dog. It was like a 35-pounder.
Just enough to get back in the door.
Right. Yeah, something a little yapper,
Yeah.
So
well, hello, boys. How's the go going? Coach Fox, Dauber.
Raymond.
Man, it is still so cold outside. I think the high today is like 4 degrees.
Yeah, it's chilly.
Yeah. I'm second week into my long under bridges.
Oh, really?
Right. I've washed them, but
Good.
Brad and I got a bike ride yesterday.
We
There you
did.
go,
Sub-zero
guys.
temps. Yeah. But we made it happen.
Burr's coming up in Perry to Rippey. Is that next
Is it
week?
coming up, or did it
is
happen? Maybe it's coming up.
I think it's the second week in February.
Okay.
I can't remember, though. That's the coldest I've ever ridden. It was negative 28 with wind chill. I called Mike Jones up at 4:45 in the morning. I'm like, dude, it's supposed to be negative 28. Are we going to do this today? And Jonesy's like, 100%. When are we ever going to get a chance to ride in negative 28 again?
Right.
All right, we have a big show today, so we'll get right to the gooey nougat. For Gen Xers from the state of Iowa, today's guest is part of one of the greatest teams in University of Iowa football history. Hap Peterson played on the defensive line for the Iowa Hawkeyes from 1981 to 1985. In his senior year, he was elected co-captain by his teammates. He earned first-team All-Big Ten honors. As a nose guard, he received honorable mention All-American from the Associated Press and was later inducted into the Iowa Football Players Hall of Fame in 1995. In that 1985 season, the Hawkeyes had 10 wins, outright Big Ten champions, a trip to the 86 Rose Bowl. They were number 1 in the nation for 5 weeks, which included a win over number 2 Michigan Wolverines, a televised game that became an instant college football classic. But what makes this Hawkeye story really interesting is he played for one of the most iconic head coaches in college football, John Hayden Fry. And he not only helped to build the legend of the Iowa Hawkeye football program, but also the legendary reputation of the University of Iowa as one of the best party schools in America. And today, he's here with us to share some of those stories and do a deep dive into the 1980s Iowa Hawkeye football program. Hap, welcome to the show.
Thanks, fellas. It's nice to be here.
Great to have you, Hap.
So, Brad, you met Hap through goat yoga? Is that
That's right.
Is it yoga or yogurt? Am I saying that right? I don't even know what the hell that is.
Right.
What is?
Yeah. Hap was always a big yoga guy. Yeah. No.
Very flexible.
Right.
So how do you know Hap?
So I had the good fortune to meet Hap at Civco, where I'm working today, and Hap was leading sales for the other division. We had two kind of organizations, and he was the head of sales, and got to know one another a little bit, and one thing leading to another. We'd be having after-work beers at Gus's. Remember Gus's? I don't know if that would qualify as a dive bar, but just there off 965. That was real close to our company.
Yeah, they had like etched pint glasses, which they were either going to make it or they were not going to make it. Anytime you etch anything into your glassware, it's going to get ripped off in the first month. But
Right. So a lot of sessions after work, and we hatched a plan. Early in my association with Hap, I came to discover that he had a bus and a small ragbri team, and I had a large ragbri team and no bus. And so over a session at Gus's, we decided we'd join forces, and Team Solid and Team, I think it was Liver On.
That sounds like a Reese's peanut butter commercial from the 70s.
And that was the start of a beautiful thing. So that's kind of how I got to know
unholy
Mr.
union.
Right.
Your bus is in the way of my people. The people are in the way of my bus. That's perfect.
It was definitely unholy.
John, do you feel a little bit like we're having a brush with our childhood greatness?
Well, yeah, we'll obviously have plenty of time to get into that. But yes, the mid-'80s Iowa Hawkeyes were like, that was rock star status. And we'll talk a little bit about this going forward, but less is more, I think, culturally a little bit. Back in those days, there wasn't 100 ESPN channels and everything on.
Yeah.
And when Iowa was on national TV, there's only a handful of those games a year. I mean, it was bigger than big back in those days. So yeah, it'll be exciting to talk about some of the behind the curtain stuff.
That number 1 and number 2 matchup was absolutely huge.
Well, I told you we should do this to try to drop it on Super Bowl week, because if you're a kid that grew up in Iowa in that time frame, that's like the permanent Super Bowl. 1-2 of Iowa, Michigan. That's like the permanent game that's etched in everyone's memories.
Hap, I was at that game. I know it was a long time ago. The third quarter, it was 3rd and 4 yards, and Michigan had the ball, and I yelled, "Come on, Hap, kick his ass!" Did you hear that?
Yeah, actually I did. I'm surprised they didn't stop the play because it was so loud, because Harbaugh got away with that shit when we were... You guys remember that? I mean, I don't know if you guys remember that. It was a big deal where they couldn't, they would penalize the home team for being too loud, and, the quarterback, all he had to do was say, "I can't hear, my players can't hear," or whatever.
Right.
And he would come up to the line in the scrimmage and pull back, and I'm lined up right on the center.
Yeah.
And real quick story: their top center was a guy named John Tabachino, who was an All-American, All Big Ten player, and I had a great season that year. And so Brett Musburger, the announcer, one of the announcers
looking
of the games.
live.
Yeah, exactly. He made a big deal about us playing against each other, right? So when all that craziness was going on, and Harbaugh would come up the field and pull away, I could see his feet, looking through the center's legs. And all of a sudden, this John Tabachino cocks his head up and looks at me, and I cock my head up, and he goes, "What the hell's he doing back there?" about Jim Harbaugh, I go, "I don't know, John. You can hear me talking. It's not that freaking loud down here. Let's go."
Right.
And we started laughing, and he gave me a head slap, and we stood up because they broke it, and they were going to penalize us and everything like that. And then the very next play, we got down again. I said, "You ready to do this?" He's like, "Yeah." And he, I don't know if you guys remember that Harbaugh scored on a broken play,
Right.
And that was the very next play. But
really?
So after 3 warnings, the fans got a penalty.
we get a penalty. Yeah.
And now the
it's
north end
ridiculous.
is a wall of sound, man. That's they built the stadium to be
Just
effective.
that,
Yeah.
Well, that was the season we were famously penalized at Minnesota.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
The Iowa fans drew a penalty on the visiting team
Right.
for too much crowd noise at the Gopher Stadium.
Isn't that crazy?
That was a magic year. I still remember, I was a little kid. We had season tickets. I had seen a lot of losses by Iowa teams up until Hayden, and I just remember sitting there. I can't remember where we were, maybe the 20, and out comes Houtland. There's 2 seconds left in the game. Weird row 10, north end zone, dead center, right on the field goal. And when it came off his foot, I could tell right away it was through. I mean, I could tell we were going to beat Michigan. We were finally going to beat Michigan. And I remember my grandpa looking down at my little eyes, and I remember exactly what he said. "Do you think you can drive Pop's car? Because he's going to get ripped up tonight."
That's awesome. And you did?
Well, we got back.
That's funny.
That was a great game. So,
Yeah.
all right, boys. So, I think we're kind of going to talk a little bit about what the downtown area and the dive bar area is like. So, Hap, let's first start. We ask everybody this question: what would be your definition of a dive bar?
Oh man, there's a bunch of them. I love the dive bar. Iowa Dive Bar is classic. Not a lot of TVs. Old nostalgic bar. Usually, if you could tell a really good dive bar when they would serve beer in shells instead of pints.
Yeah.
Do you remember this?
Mm-hmm.
Shells that they were probably I don't know, a third of a pint or half of a pint or something like that. And there was a few of them, in town that we would definitely go to.
You were at the University of Iowa at the absolute apex of the partying. I mean, that wrestling team.
Oh yeah,
that was their 9th national championship.
Yeah. And that's when Gable would encourage these guys to drink beer and stuff,
Right.
and he would go downtown and drink beer with them because they get dehydrated and lose more weight. And
Was there any? I mean, was there a collegial respect for each other, or was there a little bit of competition?
No. Especially between the wrestlers and the football players, we were highly respectful. There's been a few fights between the two, I'm sure, but it was always very respectful, and we got along with those guys. Randy Lewis is one of my dear friends, and that guy's got you want to bring somebody on and tell some stories. I mean, that guy's got some great stories.
That's a great call.
Yeah.
Did you ever? I mean, you were a state champion. Were you a 2-time state champion?
Just one time. I was undefeated my senior year.
Did you consider?
No, they.
It's tough to do.
They were
both.
but they were looking for some basically cannon fodder for the Bannock boys, and stuff like that. And I walked, Paul Glenn. I don't know if you guys know this name or not. Paul Glenn was a teammate of mine at at Bettendorf. We were both state champions. He came on and wrestled at Iowa. And his senior year, he was ranked 3rd in the nation and blew his knee out.
Yeah.
They approached me about coming and just being somebody to practice with.
Yeah.
And it was just,
thanks.
I went to one practice and it was like, there's no freaking way.
Right.
I wasn't a wrestler. I was a good athlete.
Yeah.
I basically had 3 moves. I had a takedown, escape, and then I could armbar the shit out of anybody.
There you go.
Roll them over.
And it got the job
It didn't
done.
last very long, and thank God. But I wasn't a wrestler per se. I was just more of an athlete than anything. And
So where did you live when you were in college?
so we lived in Slater. That's we were the first class. Everybody was in Hillcrest the year before I got there, and then Slater. They were transitioning everybody over to Slater because they had air conditioning, and we were the first class to get the air conditioning in Slater dorm.
So you were on the Kinnick side of the river, and the bars were on the
yeah
bar side of the river.
Yeah, made space for some cold nights coming home, in the off season.
Did you guys ever have apartments or houses or anything? Or
So interestingly enough, when I was a freshman, there was a rule. The NCAA had a rule that you couldn't redshirt freshmen. And we were on the 3rd year. My freshman year was the 3rd year of that rule. And a lot of people don't know this, but I played a lot of special teams. I was a wedge breaker on kickoff.
Okay.
I actually played in the Rose Bowl that freshman year, but they didn't have, nothing was digital. It was all analog film and stuff. And so they just turned in the tackle chart for my year. And, I didn't have a lot of tackles, being the wedge breaker.
Right.
So I was basically a bowling ball going around down there. And so I got my year back. Well, there was 3 of us, Chuck Long, Devon Mitchell, and myself. Jonathan Hayes could have had a year back had he elected that, but he elected to go on to the NFL. So the 3 of us, Chuck, Devon, and myself, were the only 3 players in Iowa history ever play in 5 seasons and 5 bowl games because of the rule change in NCAA. So got to participate in all that stuff, and it was a lot of fun.
so the dorms were great, right? Because all the athletes were together.
Yep, we were all together. And then my senior year, long story short, Chuck was playing with whether he was going to come out that year or come back. And part of the negotiation when he went in to go meet with Hayden, we all us older guys, 5-year guys, we're like, listen, man, you got to get us out of this dorm, So that was a condition. So Hayden said, hey, if you're a senior, you can live off campus
Okay.
in an apartment. And he caveated it by saying that if you were a fifth-year senior, you could do that. Four-year seniors still had to stay in the dorm. So Bill Happel and Ronnie Harmon and all these other guys who were a year behind us, but seniors, they all had to stay in the dorms. Yeah, so it was pretty contentious in that regard. But we didn't know anything about apartment life. Like, hey, you actually got to pay electric bills. You got to pay. There's a telephone here you got to pay for and all that stuff. And
So where was
did
that
your place
place?
become the off-campus hangout for your teammates that were stuck in the dorm, or
actually,
not so much?
Actually, the dorm, believe it or not, the dorm was a great place for building team chemistry.
Oh,
and stuff
I can
like
imagine that, for sure.
You're hanging around these guys the whole time. And we occupied, I think, 3 or 4 floors in Slater. It was interesting because every other floor was a girls' floor. And our floors were all like they were all even. We were all odd and stuff. And most of those guys spent their time on the even floors.
Right. Right.
So
is Hap your God-given name or his nickname?
So my mom wanted to name me Hap. My dad's name is Howard.
Yeah.
And so they gave me the formal name of Howard Allen Peterson, but they always called me Hap.
Right.
Because my mom had she loved, there's a couple books that had Hap as one of the characters, and she, Death of a Salesman was one of the characters.
Right,
Yeah.
That's how I got the name Hap.
So what was Happel's nickname?
He was Billy Hap.
Billy Hap.
Yeah, we called him
Big
Billy
Hap.
Hap. Yeah, Big Hap and Little Hap. Yeah, exactly.
God, I forgot he was on your team. That was a hell of a team, dude. That was
We had unbelievable, and our class was amazing. I mean, our class and the class behind us, we had some really amazing. And he had guys like Bernie Wyatt. Bernie Wyatt was probably one of the best recruiters in all of college football. I mean, he went to Wisconsin. That's where they got Ron Dane and a lot of their big running backs and stuff like that. He was able to get Owen Gill and the Harmon brothers and a lot of the.
He was the New Jersey Pipeline.
He
right?
was the New Jersey Pipeline, and he was a player at Iowa and coach at Iowa, and really an amazing guy. He's no longer with us, but he was a hell of a coach. Coach Andre Tippett.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Some great stories about Andre.
A feather in
Is
your
that
cap
who
if you coach
recruited you,
Andre.
Hap? Is that who came to Bettendorf High School to talk to you? when you were
Carl
getting-
Jackson, who's the running backs coach, and
okay.
then Dan McCarney, who's my position coach at Iowa, and then Hayden came.
Hayden came to Bettendorf.
Yeah,
Nice.
So
Let me run down some of the players on this team, and no disrespect to anybody I leave out. Okay, so Chuck Long, Mark Vlasic, Chuck Hartley, Ronnie Harmon was on it. Kevin Harmon, Rick Bayless was on there. Freddie Bush, Bill Happel, we talked about. Quinn Early was there on that team. Marv Cook was on that team.
Oh, yeah, Mike Cook.
Mike Team.
Mike Haight.
Hey, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff DeRoss.
Drosty, yeah.
And then on the defensive side is Larry Station, Devon Mitchell, Ken Sims, yourself. I mean, that was
Joe Mott. Joe Mott was a defensive end young guy.
Yeah. A lot of NFL
George
players.
Bullitt,
from the
yeah.
Hawks
Jay
on
Norvell
that.
was there. I mean, there was some serious athletes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys from that team went to the NFL.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Mike Haight was a first rounder to the Jets. He was the offensive Big Ten lineman of the year that year.
Where was
Really
Haight from?
amazing. From Dyersville.
Dyersville, Iowa.
Beckman, yeah.
Get out of here.
There's a lot of Iowa dudes on that team.
Yeah, tons. Yeah.
Yeah.
Except for the skill guys. A lot of the trenches guys were in there. Drosty was in Indianola.
Well, and Devon Mitchell might have had the best NFL career, but he had a catastrophic knee injury, did he? Like right out of the gate in the NFL?
Yeah, he went to Detroit.
Yeah.
And he was probably one of the best athletes we had in the entire team.
that.
He was amazing. The other thing a lot of people don't realize is that our freshman year in 1981, that fall was Kirk Ferentz's first year at Iowa.
Okay.
So he came in as a 26-year-old GA.
Wow.
He coached under Joe Moore. That you heard of the Joe Moore Award.
Yeah, famous
He
Joe
is
Moore.
the kind of the godfather of the modern day pass pro for offensive line play, and he was probably one of the biggest reasons why we started winning a lot, because offensive line play, they were putting these guys in a 4-point stance, if you can believe that, and trying to pass pro or pass block out of a 4-point stance is ridiculous. And so Kirk Ferentz certainly had a big play in the success that we had that year. And you think
Changing
about
up the format.
you think about the people that we had,
It was a hell of a coaching tree.
Oh
of
my
people over
God,
there.
it's unbelievable. And Barry Alvarez was our
Yeah.
our linebackers coach. And
Well, I'm curious about playing for Dan McCarney because just a fiery personality and seemingly so intense. He had to be amazing to play for.
I mean, if he was here right now, I guarantee you guys would all be running through that plate glass window right now.
He was an Iowa City kid, wasn't he?
Yes. Yeah, City High kid. Yep.
His dad was the chief of police here. And one of my favorite pictures of his dad that he had in his office, and it wasn't like a displayed picture of his dad, but it was during the 70s, race riots and stuff like that. And he's got some protester by the nape of the neck, and he's billy clubbing the shit out of this guy.
So
Take your
He was
kid
an
to work.
Irish cop,
Right.
So,
did you get some really good ass chewings from Dan McCarney in your
oh
day?
my God, I have pictures on here. I'll show you guys. But there's a picture of me on the bench, and I'm sitting there with Paul Hufford, who was a Big Ten All-American.
Yeah.
George Little, who was an All-American Big Ten guy, played for Miami, and then Jeff Drost, who was another All-American, All-Big Ten guy. And these guys, I'm sitting at the end of the bench, and these guys are all laughing at me. This is during a game. And they're laughing. I just got my ass chewed out big time by Dan McCartney.
Yeah.
Dan doesn't talk to you; he spits on you. You know what I mean?
He gets pretty close
He
face
gets,
to face.
he gets in your space, and he's a spitter because he's just fired up. But I'm telling you, there's nobody that can fire up a crowd than a Dan McCartney.
Yeah.
I mean, he is all Irish. He's got that Irish blood, and he'll test you. He tests your manhood and your loyalty.
Yeah.
And
So super intense guy, I know, but I also Dan's got a fun side, right? And
well, yeah,
likes to have
he's a fun guy. But listen, it's also very fair. I mean,
Yeah,
if you're
sure.
killing it, he's going to be the first one to praise you and go to you for an example and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But I mean, if you screw up, like I'll never forget my senior year, we were in the Rose Bowl. I jumped off sides twice in a row.
Oh, really?
That was on the highlight.
Oh, what's it, huh?
Yeah, I got my ass chewed on that one. But
So was it after your playing days that you finally got to have a beer with Dan and a couple laughs, or did you?
We had beers with Dan during the season.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah,
you got to see that side of it.
There was a place up in North Liberty called, talk about dive bars. Great dive bar, Purple Cow.
The Purple Cow.
The Purple Cow. North Liberty compared to Iowa City was out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, that's before it's the North Liberty that we know now.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yes.
Which
Going
is
to
an
the country.
extension of Iowa City. But yeah, the Purple Cow, which I think is where Reds is now.
Oh.
I think that's where it was. It was either that or where the dugout was, or the baseball diamond.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
because it must have
was
been, because it was
Penway.
on 965 at one point, maybe at the end, but maybe it originally was up there.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
one of those. And
Yeah.
anyway, could never figure out. But we would go up to, that's where we,
That was you'd
Now
get
that would
away to
be
that
where,
place.
after like on a Saturday night after a game, like coaches and stuff would stop at the Purple Cow.
Yeah,
So
or else
some
in
players
the
would go there
off-season,
too. Okay.
it's like, hey, after a winter workout, I'll never forget one time John Hardy, he just won a Super Bowl with the 49ers, so he came back and he was one of Dan's, he was the first All-American Dan ever coached, and he came back and we all met at the Purple Cow, and it was, I don't remember paying for anything, honestly. And so Dan or John took care of it, but we had, Pat Dean was there, Mark Bortz.
Uh-huh.
And these guys back in the day, probably some of the toughest guys I've ever met in my entire life, just really rough and tumble, probably a little bit of a criminal element there, in terms of attitude and stuff. They didn't take a shit from anybody.
Right.
And,
What would you
and
drink
they were
at the
tough.
Purple Cow?
What's that?
Did you guys drink tap beer at the Purple Cow? Did you guys get
we would-
pitchers, Bud Heavy?
Yeah, it was
or
all
what was that what it
pitchers.
was?
Yeah, pitchers and shots. It was all shots. And it would be something stupid like, schnapps, some kind of schnapps. Peach schnapps was huge in the 80s.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was a big deal.
Kirk Ferentz, a big drinker after the games up at the Purple Cow.
Kirk would get after it, though. I mean,
Oh, serious? Oh, see, I said
he would get it
facetiously,
when he was a position coach.
yeah, all right.
Here's
He
a
could let
great
his hair
story.
down a
You
little
guys want to
bit.
hear a great story?
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
So we're in the Peach Bowl. We just beat Tennessee, and that's from Reggie White and Willie Galt and
Yes.
Bill Bates, the big defensive back they had, and they were loaded. And you guys remember a guy named Clay Uhlenhake? Clay Uhlenhake was a defensive lineman. He was the player of the game.
Was he really? Okay.
MVP.
From Moravia, Iowa, I think.
Moravia, yeah.
Oh, really?
I got another rag rice story about that. But anyway, so we're in some kind of Omni. Everything's Omni there. So we're in some Omni hotel, and we're literally on the 36th floor, and we're in Mike Haight and Kelly O'Brien. They're roommates together. They were my senior year. They were starters. This would be my second year at Iowa. We
Kind
played
of turned out to be freshman, redshirt freshman.
yeah, redshirt freshman, and I was a backup to Dave Brown. Dave Brown was the starting nose guard then.
Mm-hmm.
So they're in this room, and they have this suite where two walls are on a corner suite. Two walls were solid glass, right? Solid glass.
Right.
And so it had a beautiful suite, and we were going to plan on having a big party up there. So you talk about kegs. We had kegs brought up.
Yeah.
Had it was a big house party and stuff. And there was a guy, and I can talk about this guy because he's no longer with us. John Relk. John was a captain. In '83, he played offensive guard for us, and he was our kicker. Believe it or not.
Interesting.
He was a straight toe kicker, so he kicked off and he would do extra points for us. Mm-hmm. John was having a hard time because his girlfriend was cheating on him. They found out about it, and we're in this suite, and he's sitting there drinking out of this huge handle of peppermint or something, and he downs it, takes the empty bottle, and he throws it at the TV set, which was kind of angled. This thing ricochets off the TV and goes right out the picture window. And you had about a 2.5-3 foot hole, and it was cold as hell out there.
So rock and roll.
Freaking
It's
freezing.
the most rock and roll story you
This
could
thing
tell.
whips across the room, and this thing just goes shoo, right out the window. And we all looked at each other and goes, holy shit, what do we do now?
Right.
And it was sheer panic.
Right. Oh, no
sheer
doubt.
panic. It was like... And then Mike and Kelly are like, everybody get the hell out, blah, blah, blah. And Farron shows up. And so then we had to call in the Wolf. The Wolf for us
to
was
clean things up.
yeah, that was John Streif. Streif
Oh, yeah.
Streif would come in and
Take care of
it. He just kind of fixed it.
Hey, so tell us about John and how special he was to
my
these Iowa
gosh.
teams.
John was the other than the coaches, John was the first staff member I ever met at the University of Iowa, and couldn't have been as nice could be. If there's anything you need, you're more welcoming. Here's what the lay of the land is, and if you could always talk to John, and he was the guy that pretty much did everything. In terms of he had his hands in a lot, and he knew a lot, and he was obviously an amazing trainer, but. He got more responsibility just because he was the Wolf. He fixed everything,
Right.
So, Streif over the years just became a big fixture in the Iowa program for all of us, and still is.
Yeah.
He's still around and everything.
For the people who don't know who he is, for parents that were far away, Florida, California, Texas, and their kids would get hurt, John was the guy who would be in the hospital every day. John would be the guy asking questions. He'd spend the night. Even if they weren't hurt for football, if they got sick with the flu or something, John was there.
Yeah, I had 3 knee operations, and he was there more than my parents, you know. And he was always the advocate for you, and he's just an amazing guy. And that guy devoted his entire life to the University of Iowa, and still does to this day.
The little things that people do in programs are what makes it successful, and that thread that runs all the way through it, through coaching staffs, and that's the kind of stuff that makes places special to play.
Yeah. And it probably doesn't get press coverage. And,
No, you don't see that on a score sheet or
It's
anything like that. It's
intangible thing.
right.
Yeah, no, John was a behind-the-scenes guy. Everything ran smooth because of his involvement. He did all the legwork ahead of time before trips, and, he just knew everybody.
And that was a time before programs were super built up.
Super built. We had think about the staffs they have today. They have over 85 people on staff at the University of Iowa now, and I think we had 16 or 17. So these guys all had multiple roles and all kinds of things.
So we talked a little about the Peach Bowl experience there. Which bowl game had the best away from the football atmosphere for you guys? Best either hotel, party situation. Best. Did you guys get out and see the towns a little bit when you were on those bowls? Yeah. And so which ones were some of your favorite? Did you
Rose Bowls were the best.
Yeah.
The Rose Bowls. My freshman year was kind of crazy because we went out early. Because it was cold as hell here, and Hayden thought it'd be a great idea to go out there really super early.
Yeah.
That was not really a great idea because
Live and learn.
Yeah, they had courtesy cars for us and stuff like that, and so you could check out a car or get a driver. And back then, Gordy Bohannon was one of our starting quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Him and Pete Gale split time, and Gordy lived in Southern California. You know what I mean?
Okay,
So
so you had a connection.
So yeah, my freshman year going out there, it was always loved hanging out with Gordy because Gordy knew all the
He knew where to go.
He knew the whole Rose Bowl court. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
So Gordy and I don't know if his folks weren't around. I don't know. His house was available, but his folks lived out there. We had a huge ass party at his house.
Yes.
I mean, it was huge, and I can remember, coming back really super late from that thing. And
Yeah.
the whole homecoming court was there.
Wow.
It was crazy. It was all the stuff that you read about.
Did you have to sneak your way back in to make curfew, or?
You know
Was there
what?
a bed
It's
check?
funny. It's funny.
Yeah, it was like
I'm
Escape
sure
from
there
Alcatraz.
was.
Did you
I'm
put a
sure there
mannequin?
was, but it wasn't. Honestly, in all the 5 years, I really don't remember much of a bed check. It was pretty loose.
Okay.
And that's what happens when you win. I mean,
100%.
Right.
when you're winning,
For sure.
They
don't mess with the
they don't
program.
try and find ways to
Yep.
And we got away with a lot of shit. I mean, it
Right.
was craziness back then.
A lot of those, I know this isn't bowl related, but a lot of the stadiums that you played in back in the 80s were built back in the 20s. What's the crappiest locker room or worst
Oh,
facilities
that's
you're
easy.
in?
That's easy. Michigan State.
Really?
Was it
Michigan
terrible?
State is famous for having the worst visitor locker rooms by far, and one of the highlights is that when you go into the toilets they're in a raised floor and they're all open. There's not one
No stalls.
no stalls whatsoever. You're just right
Just
there.
out
And
there.
I'll never forget the first year I went up there. I get dressed, but I gotta go. I gotta go. So I go in there and I start peeling clothes off and I drop my trowel and I'm sitting there and it's game day, so you're not quiet about anything. And here comes John Hayden, comes up, sits right there's toilets there. He comes, sits right next to me.
No way.
The old man comes, sits right next to me, and
You're kidding me.
no, and he's like, he's like an army mule.
He's an
over
old
here,
Marine. He doesn't care.
Right.
He's just making it known, who's the man, right? And so, and then meanwhile, he's trying to have a conversation with me, like, hey, you ready to go? Let's go,
right.
And, hey, can you hand me some of that paper, will you? And, hey, kid, it was really awkward. It was awkward.
Yeah.
But the locker room was small, and just because of that bathroom, everybody complains about Michigan State. The greatest thing is, I think Iowa has the most infamous visitors locker room of all time. I mean, I'll never forget, Bo Schembrecher coming in, and we gave Bo his worst defeat ever in a home game at Iowa. It was 26-0. I think it was 83. I think it was. And he was so worried about that pink locker room. He had teams of people come in with butcher paper and try and
Cover it up.
cover it all up. And then Hayden, he came down, and Bo was aggravated about that. He was worried about the damn locker room. And he's standing there talking to Bo, and they're watching our kickers kick. And I don't know who was kicking then. It wasn't Reggie. Maybe Gary Costrobala. And he was shanking them all over the place. And he's like, man, Bo's like, hey, Hayden, looks like your punter's having a little trouble here. And Hayden's like, yeah, he's having a little trouble, but we don't plan on using him today. And we didn't the whole game, So
I think Harbaugh did the same thing. I think he papered over the locker room and the very same thing happened. I think So
That was the psychology of it. Get in your head.
right. So the psychology of it, was Hayden as diabolical as everybody thinks he was, or was he just pretty on the nose?
what do you mean by diabolical?
Well, he had that dusty rose pink locker room because everybody said he was a psychology major. And I mean, was there any psychology
Ed
to him, or
James.
was he just who he was?
Dude, Hayden Fry was the best sports he was the sports psychology guy before sports psychology got big.
Right.
He would do we all thought he was nuts, honest to God.
Right.
Hey, close your eyes, visualize, and all this stuff. And he'd walk us through the whole game.
Right.
And we would visualize us winning games, and making tackles and gang tackling. And sure enough, we started playing like we visualized this whole thing. And it wasn't until we all got out of college and started managing people and motivating people, and still you really understand, it's like, that's when the light bulb went off on the genius of John Hayden. I mean, that guy was amazing in terms of the way he motivated his players, held people accountable. I mean, I've seen Dan McCarney get fired, a half a dozen times in a given year,
by Hayden.
Yeah, by Hayden, just because of things he didn't like, or it wasn't, he wasn't going to yell at the players, but he definitely got on his coaches.
So be honest, when you're in those meetings and Hayden, your eyes are closed and he's walking you through imagining, were you thinking about button heads with a center, or were you thinking about the Rose Bowl homecoming court?
Yeah. Everything has its moments, you know what I mean? At the time, honestly, this is the beautiful thing about it. He would have you. He wouldn't actually have you visualize the play. He had you visualize the celebration after the play. You know what I mean?
Time in that regard.
So everything was always a win with this guy. And don't get me wrong, we had our moments, where we were thinking about homecoming courts, but usually wasn't anywhere near game day.
So, I mean, just for our listeners, Hayden Fry actually had a background in psychology. I mean, he studied that in college, used the GI Bill.
He was a Marine Corps. He was in the Marine Corps.
So,
coached in the Marine Corps.
Yeah. He actually had a background in psychology. It wasn't just kind of spitballing it.
No, 100%.
So
he knew what he was doing, too. And he definitely know how to motivate us and know how to push us, and then knew when to lay off. He was something else. I mean,
so those teams you were on, obviously tight-knit teams, super successful on the field, off the field. Did you guys all hang out together? Or was it by position groups, or how close is that team off the field?
Very close. Again, we all lived together. Like my roommates in college, I roomed with 3 guys. I roomed with actually 4 guys. I roomed with Jonathan Hayes, was one of my roommates. George Little, and then I roomed with Chuck Long for the last 2 years, and then my CTE's kicking in right now. Trey Jackson. Oh my God.
Trey Jackson.
Can't believe I forgot about it. He was my first roommate. That was a disaster.
Really?
A disaster, yeah. Dan McCarney thought it'd be a great idea if we roomed together since we played each other in the state finals. He talked about 2 totally different personalities.
Right.
He complained. We had air conditioning in our room for a reason, and he would always turn it off in the middle of the night because he said his muscles would tighten up.
Right.
That doesn't sound good.
That relationship ended after I came back from the bars one day, and I pissed in the wastebasket right next to his bed and left it there. And his mom didn't like that at all. So,
Where did you go out? Because I think you've told me before that you had a special relationship. Was it with the sports column, where like that was your after?
Yeah. So it evolved. When my freshman year, first couple of years there, it was always the field house.
Yeah.
The field house there, or you would go to the Deadwood for a dive.
Sure.
I think back, Club 54 or something like that. It was over there by Club Car now.
Okay. Yeah.
The studio was called Studio.
Yeah. Studio with a number. Yeah.
Yeah. So those were the kind of the hang Mummies, because I worked in Iowa City in the summertime, and Mummies was always a big hangout with the contractors and stuff like that. And then along came a guy named Donnie Stockfleet, unbelievable man, great guy. He started the sports column, and we became fast friends as soon as he opened up. And we liked Eggleston too over at the field house anyways, but it was always the field house, so we wanted something new. So we started going to the sports column.
Okay.
And, oh my
God, that was a new place in the 80s?
Yeah, that was like the last two or 3 years at Iowa.
Okay.
He opened that place up, and while we were there, he kept expanding it. It used to be just that one aisle right down the middle, and then he took over the laundromat that was next door, and then he took over another shop on the other side and kept growing it. But the sports column was awesome. That was home base, my junior and senior year during the heyday, and Donnie was always super, super good to all of us. A lot of our guys would work there in the summertime, bouncing and stuff like that. But
where was the downtown eateries, the team? Because it wasn't the same back now. They feed these guys.
I'd always eat at the sports column.
Oh, you did the column. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Whether I paid for it or not, I always ate there. I was telling Brad ED, my routine after the bars would be, no matter where I was, whether I was in the sports column or somewhere else, I would end up at the sports column right before closing, just march my way right back in the kitchen and start pulling out all the big slabs of, ham and, turkey, things like that, and start sawing and creating the biggest Dagwood sandwich you ever saw. Get the bread out and, and do the whole thing up, lettuce, tomato, everything. And I'd write up a ticket and I'd stuff it behind the register. Hey, I owe you whatever. Here's a sandwich I had, Donnie. So when I got married, Donnie took all those receipts that I had, and that was my wedding gift. One of my wedding gifts was from him was he forgave me all the money that he spent the sandwiches and
That's
stuff.
awesome.
Bargain.
You know, when we'd come up when I was in college, we would go to the Hawkeye truck stop in Coralville on Sunday mornings, and the Iowa players would come in there and have breakfast. And I can't remember, I want to say the guy that owned it was named Meyer, Rich Meyer, something like that. And those guys would come in and eat, and you'd see them come walking in, like, God, they were on the football field, 12 hours ago or whatever. And then after they were done eating, they would get a slap on the back, and they just walk out the door.
NIL before NIL.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You guys had to have just ran the downtown. I mean, there was such a size difference between you guys.
Yeah, I don't know. We weren't like belligerent or anything like that. I mean, we paid for a lot of stuff, but we got a lot of stuff for free. I mean, they give us beers and stuff, especially when you're winning,
Right.
For sure.
Mark Eggleston at the field house was always very kind to us, and Donnie was unbelievable to us. And then RT Grunts, McDougal Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
RT's was a favorite hangout. And that was my senior year as well.
Yeah.
Those guys, McDougal Brothers, were fantastic.
Right. Well, it really was pretty awesome. I mean, that's kind of when Iowa City kind of got the reputation of being a great party school. I mean, there was just there were tons of people from out of state here.
Yeah.
There were, the downtown did their part about providing venues that were a lot of fun.
Yep.
I think for the most part, the alumni were eager to come back and relive their college years.
Yeah.
So, but
And as Hap said, we had like a successful football team. We had the Gable era. You had like
Oh my God.
That was good. The
phenomenal
basketball team was great.
Basketball, yeah.
So like
Whole thing,
athletics and just that whole
Before I
scene
got
was-
there, they made the Final Four.
Yeah,
And
it was
Yeah.
an insane
Lute-
time for
Lute
Iowa
Olson, I
Hawkeyes
mean,
sports.
he was phenomenal. So
Lute, Hayden,
we were
and
kind of
Dan
hitting
Gable,
all,
I mean,
all
man.
cylinders.
Now, did Hayden ever stop at the Purple Cow after the game? Because he lived out by there, or did he not do that?
No.
Just the assistant coaches. Huh?
No.
Yeah.
He was more an athletic club or
the I Club place. Yeah.
yeah,
On
that's
Melrose
just on
there.
Melrose,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, and he had his haunts for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say, what Michi's place out in
Done it.
Ron Amici.
Pumpernickel?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Pumpernickel.
Oh.
That was Hayden's place, and the Lark, of course.
Oh, the Lark.
The Lark.
Yeah.
And then like when Bobby Knight would come in town, him and Bobby were really close, and so
Hayden and Bobby.
Yeah,
Really?
they would go to the Lark and really tear it up.
That place should have been rebuilt, man.
Oh.
That thing
well, they
had
tried
history.
in Iowa City, and it just didn't go.
It must have been hurting because it got hit by Greek lightning. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Oh, I don't know. Oh, the fire. Oh, I just. It's anybody's
No,
been through
I
that.
think
It's
we all
legendary
laugh
it's
place.
at
horrible.
it, though.
It's
Yeah.
horrible, but the Lark was amazing. There was just a lot of what's that hotel right on the when you're coming down past the Amoco station,
The old Canterbury Inn.
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
they had a bar there.
I remember that place.
They had a bar there that we would go to, and it had a. Have you ever been there?
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Go to
with
the
the,
store.
swimming pool vibe?
the pool glass
Yes.
right behind the bar and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And that was a kind of
Yeah.
a hangout too. That was a good dive,
Well,
a good hidey ho.
And I remember talking. It actually, is Jim McNulty and Dan
Jimmy-
McCarty, and they were telling stories about the Canterbury.
Jim McNulty, he passed was it 7 years ago? Just the other day.
Was it 7 years ago already? That's
Yeah,
hard to
something
believe
like
it's been
that, yeah.
long. But the Canterbury had that turret, like in the parking lot.
Yes.
And they were saying you could park behind it, and then no one could see your cars from the
Yeah.
street.
Okay.
So if the wives were looking for them, they wouldn't see their cars.
See,
because they were
that was a
hidden.
hangout for a lot of the coaches would go there. And,
Okay.
because they had like really kind of hidey ho booths. They could
Uh-huh.
hide in this
Yeah.
thing and
Tuck
kind
in.
of dark. And
Did you ever experience St. Patty's Day with Dan and Mac and those guys? Or not? But you don't have.
No,
you've heard of
I
them?
know that. I mean, they would dress up, and all those guys, McNulty and
Yeah.
David Butler. No, but my famous St. Patty's experience was going to Dyersville with the Hates.
Okay.
The Haight brothers, Mike and
Yeah.
Dave Haight.
Yeah.
Both those guys were all Big Ten, all American players. Dave was on the Century team as a nose guard. He played behind me. He was a freshman when I was a senior. And we would go back to Dyersville, and oh my God, St. Patty's Day was off
Big
the
deal.
chain. Yeah, it was. Talk about dive bars. They had some
Right.
good Catholic community. They had like 2 or 3 of them right there on the main square. And we took John Hayes there there with us. John's a big dude. He's probably 6'5". I think he wears like a 62 coat, some shit like that. His shoulders are massive.
Right.
And I'll never forget walking in. It was Mike, Kelly O'Brien, myself, and John Hayes. And John was the last one to come in. We walk in this dive bar.
Yeah.
And it was like that thing where you hear the scratch of the record going, and everybody just stopped and turned around and looked at Jonathan like, holy shit, there's a black man in our bar.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And he's big.
And he's huge. And he fills the door up and he looks at everybody because they're all staring at him and they're all watching. And on TV was Bill Cosby, the Bill Cosby show. And he's like, well, goddamn, I know you guys seen black people. You watch them on TV, for Christ's sakes, And then as soon as he said that, the whole place came unglued. And
That's
it was,
awesome.
shots and beers and
that's
craziness, mayhem.
I was going to say, that group you just listed, did you even have enough money in your wallet for all the beer you planned to drink that day?
No, dude, I don't know. It's funny because magic always occurs in Iowa City when Hawks win,
Yeah.
So we paid our way for a lot of it, but man, we got a lot of generosity thrown our
Oh,
way.
sure.
Yeah, and
Rightly
deservedly
so. Rightly
yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Rightly so.
Well, and you talk about Aggie and having you guys at the field house. That more than paid for itself for him, because it was a
right.
known place post game.
Aggie was always
So
great.
He made tenfold the money off people who went there to hang on the Hawk players.
That
as much
was
as they
like
gave you free beer.
precursor to NIL. I mean, Hap, what are your thoughts on what's the state of college athletics today
Oh,
at
my
NIL?
God.
You guys didn't have any money from Pony, did you?
No. God,
Okay.
no.
Remember
No.
the Pony? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
were the Ponies? I'm sorry, because I was a fan, right? And everybody wanted AstroTurf white ponies with the black V,
The
right?
check mark, whatever that was.
Yeah.
Probably the worst logo shoe ever.
So you
These
still
shoes-
don't have any in your
I'll never
closet at
for-
home?
Yeah, do you have any ponies in your class? Oh, damn.
Dude, these things disintegrated on your feet. I'm not shitting you. So Hayden, I'll never forget. We had Adidas in
Okay.
Adidas basketball shoes because the turf we had was my freshman year was really old. It needed new turf, but it would lay one way, and so your foot would slide one way and it would grip the other way. Okay, because it was all bent over on the side. And so Hayden, he negotiated this shoe deal, and he says, "Man, it came down from is either Reebok or Pony, and he had they had his accent going, and man, I got the best shoe money could buy. I'm gonna put the best thing on your feet. It's gonna be great, And we put these shoes on, and next thing you know, they after one practice, and this is a shoe you had to wear all year. This freaking thing would stretch out. It would stretch out like crazy. We would play, honest to God, with like 3 pairs of socks on just to get our foot to fit in this damn thing and not slide around. Guys like Ronnie and Chuck and some of these guys who had big, long, narrow feet, they would put them in the Adidas shoes, but they would spat them, and then they would stamp their logo, the Pony logo on it.
Interesting. Yeah.
Just so they'd be compliant. But yeah, the Pony shoes were dog shit. They were terrible. But he gave Hayden a big deal. And
I was going to say,
Well,
fit nicely in Hayden's wallet.
but think about it.
there goes our sponsorship
Think
for
about this,
Pony.
guys. Think about this though. Hayden Fry, I think my freshman year was making like $45,000
Right.
a year.
Right.
If you can believe that.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like nothing.
Yeah.
No wonder he no wonder he created a logo and
yeah.
Right.
some marketing things that he took advantage of because that was the only way he was going to get paid.
Yeah.
For sure.
Have you been out by his house out by North Liberty, out by the lake?
Oh yeah. The one is the last house he had, the big
Yeah.
house. Yeah, Mike Haight lived right next door.
Oh,
to him.
did he?
Yeah, when he was in the NFL, he bought the house next to him. But yeah, we go out there all the time, and Shirley'd be out there in this big John Deere with a front loader,
Right.
bringing over some lemonade or some shit to Haight's house when they're out there.
Yeah, it kind of, the one I'm thinking about, it's a little bit out of place because it has like terracotta roof on it, and it kind of looks like
The big house. You're talking about. Yeah, that's the one.
So when the first time I saw it, I was like, "Who built that?" Because
Yeah.
it looks like it's ripped out of New Mexico.
You ever ridden down Prairie du Chien and you notice that you kind of on a bend and you notice that house that has the pool in the front yard?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was Hayden's first house here.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that
Oh, I
was
didn't
his
realize
first
that.
house in Iowa City.
So yeah, there's probably a lot of people went by that because it was the lake.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
But Hayden was amazing.
So who was the of all your teammates? Who's the best trash talker? One that was on your team, and then who did you play against? That was a great trash talker.
All right, so there's trash talkers when it's amongst ourselves.
Okay,
you know, I'd say we were all pretty damn good.
You held your own.
Yeah. Oh yeah. In fact, if you play golf with me, you know the best club in my bag is my mouth. So I'm a shit talker, but John Hayes had to be one of the best shit talkers of all time. And he was loud and you know, and he had that voice when he spoke. He sounded like God.
Yeah.
He had deep, big voice. I'll never forget. This is a good story. Chuck won't like this story if he hears this podcast or whatever. But so my senior year, we were at the Rose Bowl, and Chuck and I were rooming together, and Mike Haight and Kelly O'Brien were rooming next to us. And those two guys were in our room, and in walks John Hayes. He was in the season was done early for them or whatever. And anyway, he was there for the Rose Bowl. And he came in with all this Kansas City gear, and this is his rookie season, so we're getting all the hats and all this shit. Sure. And the last thing John told me before he left school to go play in the NFL is like, hey, you're rooming with Chuck. You make sure he stays humble. Don't let this son of a bitch get cocky.
Right.
And so as soon as John walks in the door, Chuck starts blowing him shit, like being just an ass, calling him every name in the book, big deal, fuck the Chiefs, blah, 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 just being an horse's ass. Uh-huh. And so John looked at me and he was super pissed. And he's like, man, I gave you one job.
Like legitimately
pissed. He was super pissed. I'm not kidding. Ask anybody who was there. So he grabs Chuck by the back of the neck, and we're on the 34th floor of this fucking hotel. It's a balcony that's probably 2 feet deep, 3 feet deep. He opens up the slider, throws him out there, and shuts the slider and locks it. He goes, "You're staying out there until you can show some respect." He's like, "Fuck you!" Can you swear on this?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
great. Fuck you, fuck you, Hayes. Blah blah blah. And he just kept screaming at Jonathan.
Yeah.
And John comes walking over and he goes, "I can't believe you let this guy get cocky like this. I gave you one freaking job," and he was super mad. And he goes, "Excuse me." He gets up, and Chuck's still screaming, and he closes the shades,
right,
so he can't even look in. Now it's hot as hell out there. You know, it's the sun's beating down, and he's like, "Let me in, goddammit, let me in." And John's like, "I'm not letting you in until you bark like a dog." And he's like, "Fuck you, Hayes. I'm not doing that. I'm not coming in. Blah blah blah." And this guy's, just won the. Runner-up to Heisman. Right. He's a Davey O'Brien winner. I mean, he's All-American, first team. Got his name on the stadium, for Christ's sakes, Right. And so finally, he's like, "I'm not letting you in until you bark like a dog." And 10 minutes later, all you heard was, he starts woof woof. It wasn't a big dog. It was probably a medium. It was like a 35
just
pounder.
Just enough to get back in the door.
Right. Yeah, something a little yapper. Yeah. So
some kind of doodle.
He goes, and Chuck came in. He sat down. He didn't say very much of anything, but that's how we policed our own. And John was a big personality. So John was a big shit talker. I can remember guys like Fred Bush was a big shit talker. I don't know. We would get into it.
Did you talk smack during games to
no,
opposition?
Not unless they started it. Not really. Or if you did get somebody that was, jawing you up or something, you'd wait for them to kind of, when a punt was ending or something, they're standing around the pile counting their change, and you kind of let them have it, you know.
Right.
Take them out that way or let them know you're there.
Did you get at least a good shot on Harbaugh after all of his antics that day in Kinnick, or did you get
I got a fumble. I actually have a picture tackling him. I got a sack in that game. Mm-hmm. I had a fumble recovery. I had a bunch of tackles. We had a really good game. Larry Station had a monster game.
Well, as I say, you're the one that occupied the line, so he could get the famous tackle on Morris, right? That was your
I don't know
handiwork.
No, you don't want to take credit for that?
No.
It was a famous play.
Yeah, it was a famous play, and Larry timed it up, and it was perfect. And we all knew it was coming. And Larry popped in there and got a tackle for loss, and it was a critical down because it was what gave us the ball at the end of the game.
Have you seen Harbaugh since that game? Like, have you run into him post graduation?
I have not.
No?
I have not. I don't know about you guys, but that guy is strange.
Yeah,
Yeah,
He
that's
is
what I was wondering if you,
strange.
had a chance to put a couple thoughts in his ear after you did
No,
you just let that go.
I
All
don't give a
right.
shit about that guy.
Right.
All right.
He's just so weird. I mean, his brother seems normal, but that guy just seems totally
Right.
weird.
He did a little stint in Iowa City too. Like he lived
Yeah.
like 3 blocks away from
Yeah.
GenX.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah, Harbaugh's.
Yeah.
yeah, because his dad coached.
Yeah. All right. So you guys were before social media. Which one of your teammates would have been off the team on week number 1 if there were social media?
Oh man, that's really a loaded question. It could have been any of us, really. I'll give you. Here's a great story. I'll give you a great story. Again, this guy's gone, so I can talk about him. We had a guy named John Relk who was in '83 was a captain. He was a starting right guard, a right or left guard, and he was our place kicker. He was a square toe. He kicked off on
Right.
in the games. He wore a square toe shoe,
Right.
Yeah, I
old school,
remember.
where they'd strap it up around your ankle.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
So Hayden had given us. We were going to the Gator Bowl, and this. Remember when it was so cold? The stadium, the water in the stadium froze at the Gator Bowl. It's probably one of the coldest football games I've ever been to.
Really?
It was at the Gator Bowl
That's crazy.
in '83. Anyway, so Hayden had given us a day off before we were going to leave on a Sunday. It was a Saturday. School was out, from what I remember. But, the big highlight us going up was, hey, if you're going to go to the airliner to get a seat in the window, that was a big deal to get a seat
Right,
in the
watch
window.
people go by and- Yeah, yeah,
flip
yeah.
them off
Yeah.
or whatever, or whistle at the girls or whatever.
Yeah.
And so there was, I wasn't there, but this is how the story goes. So there was, the Huffer brothers were there, John Relk, I think. You talk about Dave Moritz. I think he was there, Mortsey, Ed Langford, maybe Dave Strobel, defensive end. They were all there. So they're drinking in the bar.
Yeah.
Had the day off. We didn't have nothing going on. No meetings, no nothing.
Right.
And they're drinking pitchers after pitchers, and they're sitting in the window. And John gets up to go to the bathroom, and he goes into the urinal, and he takes a leak and notices his shoe's untied. So he puts his foot on the urinal to tie his shoe, snaps that sucker right off the wall.
Right.
Boom, like this. Now it's like Johnny Tsunami coming out of this bathroom,
Right.
like freaking water everywhere, and
Right.
you just can't stop it. So he comes running out of the bathroom, as the story goes. Comes running out of the bathroom. He's like, we got to go. Come on, guys, we got to go. And he's like, what? We just got our picture. He's like, fuck that, we got to go. And he tells them what happened. So they all run out, pay their bill. They all run out. John's got a station wagon, like an old 79 Plymouth or some shit like that. And it's got, it's got 2 bench seats, so all 6 of them can fit in the car, but they're all shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
He takes it. What's that first right? Is that Washington Street right there by the bookstore?
Iowa
Iowa
Avenue,
Avenue.
yeah.
It takes a right on Iowa Avenue. They're heading down to Tuck's place. Takes a right on there, and they're going like hell. He sideswipes the car.
Oh Jesus.
Hits a car. Sideswipes a car. Hits it. Keeps going.
Yeah.
Like this. He goes on to Lynn Street, takes a left on Lynn Street, still burning it. A jogger's running, and he rolls this guy up on top of the car.
Oh no.
Right? Guy jumps, hits him, rolls up on the car. He keeps going, pulls in front of Tuck's place. He looks at everybody and goes, well, we made it. Like that. Gets out of the freaking car. This is a true story. Gets out of the
Barely
car.
a scratch.
All these guys get out of the car. They go in and they start drinking again.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, probably 15 minutes, 20 minutes later, the whole place is surrounded by cops,
Right.
Iowa City cops.
Right.
And they all knew who John was, and they all knew what was happening. And a couple of the guys are like, hey, we'll go out the front door and distract them. You run out the back. Like there was going to like this big plan, after a day of drinking
Right.
all day in
Right.
the bars. Like they
Yeah.
get, they got
Well
this thing
thought
worked.
out.
Right.
Yeah, they got this thing worked out.
Diabolical.
And ready break. And so these 2 guys go running out the front. Of course, the cops don't pay any attention to them. And John runs out the back, and the cops sees him and says, John, don't run. Sure enough, he takes off running. And they tackle him, and there's like 6 of them, and they tackle him, and they're like, John, don't resist, don't fight. He's swinging like a son of a bitch.
Yeah.
He's swinging and
Right.
hitting cops and everything. And so he's resisting. They finally cuff him and they get him loaded in the car and they take him downtown. Well, I think it was Kirk Ferentz had to go down and get him.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
They release him to Kirk's, to his custody.
Yeah.
And he goes into Hayden's room, his office. And this is only like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, guys. I mean, this is this is a lot of damage in a short amount of time.
Right.
John sat in that office, I'm not kidding you, for probably till maybe 10:30 at night. And Hayden's like, I don't know if you're on this team right now, let alone even going to a bowl game.
Right.
And sure enough, I think what they were doing is they're trying to fix everything. So,
Right. See who would be pissed if
yeah.
insurance could take care of stuff.
Who's going to fix this? Who's going to pay for that? Is the guy hurt? Is he not hurt?
Right.
The jogger. Got to fix that old lady's car. So out of all that shit, the one thing he got in trouble for? What's that?
Swinging at a cop.
No, the one thing that he got in trouble for and he paid for was the urinal. That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything else,
Start of it all.
Everything else went away.
Right.
Everything else went away, and that's how. That was the magic of John Hayden. Hayden's here at the house.
Okay, let's do a pause. I got to take this.
Come on now, people. How great is this conversation with Hap Peterson? The day we sat down with Hap, the fridge was absolutely packed with beer. We had 5 Wig and Pin pizzas on the table, and it was freaking cold outside. So let's be honest, none of us had any ambition to leave the Deep Dive Studios. And we didn't. That's right, we were in the Deep Dive Studios for 3 straight hours. And what you just heard was only hour number 1 of the most excellent session with Hap. And yes, you're getting more Hap next week. And if you caught that little tease at the end, we're also joined by another Hawkeye great from that legendary 1985 season. That Hawkeye showed up with a pocket full of stories too. So make sure you tune in next week for part 2 of this most excellent sesh of Hap and his guest. All right, before we go, let's do a quick speed round, just you and I. Let's see how closely you're watching. I'm going to ask you 4 questions from our interview with Hap, and I'll post the answers to these questions on our Deep Dive Pod Face group. So question 1, Hap said, everyone on that 1985 team could talk pretty good smack, but which Hawkeye did he call the greatest trash talker of all time? Question 2, which bar could you find Hap Peterson sitting in during the last call of his junior and senior years? Question 3, everyone knew him as Coach Hayden Fry, but Hayden was his middle name. What was Coach Fry's first name? And the 4th and final question, co-team captain John Relk started as an offensive guard, but what other position did he start at for the Iowa Hawkeyes? All right, friends, thanks so much for spending your time with us. We truly appreciate everyone who likes, subscribes, and shares this show with their friends. If you want to interact with us or your deep dive dwellers, you can find us at the Facebook group Deep Dive Pod, or you can email us directly at deepdivepod2025@gmail.com. So until next week and part 2 of our interview with Hap Peterson and his surprise drop-in guest, bye-bye.